Welcome to another reading from Hot Flash Divas. Today we're going to be reading from chapter 56, Mystery Dates. Aaron told Letitia the guys would meet us inside the Swizzler. I wasn't so keen on the idea. Drinking on an empty stomach was a surefire way for me to become tipsy, and this didn't seem wise before a mystery date. My phone rang, so I excused myself to escape the rising din inside the bar. Pushing through the rear exit door, I walked out to the concrete patio of the pool area and parked my backside on one of the turquoise chase lounges. The number looked familiar. Brent Power's cheerful salutation was followed with, "Are you having fun?" I can hear the ocean in the background. So far, yes. Although I'm happy those tornadoes missed us, I found myself smiling. The mystery dates were forgotten. Of all the men I dated so far, Brent was the one who made me laugh and feel tingly. I had my eye on that storm system. I was relieved when I heard it missed Fort Walton. Did Brent's voice hold a note of concern? The idea of him being concerned about my safety somehow raised my cheer level by 2 points. The door from the hotel flew open. A group of children spilled out and beelined to the pool. We were sequestered in a hallway for an hour during a tornado warning. Other than that, it was driving rain and high winds. I recounted Kat's flying nun incident earlier in the day, and we shared a laugh. "When do you get home? I've missed you." "Saturday afternoon." I placed my hand over my free ear. The kids in the pool had decided to start a splash battle, punctuated by high-pitched squeals. "Would you consider having dinner with me Sunday night?" "I'd love it." I pumped my fists and grinned, my eyes glued the whole time to the antics of the frolicking children. "Great, I'll call you Sunday and we'll finalize the plans." I looked over to find Letitia craning her head out the door of the bar, waving for me to come. "Gotta go. The divas are ready to go eat. Be careful, okay?" There's that concerned tone again. "Will do." I strode toward Letitia, who sported a grin usually reserved for when she found the perfect shoes to match an outfit. "Wait till you see your date." She grabbed my arm and pulled me inside. I blinked as she towed me toward the bar, blinded by the shadowed interior. Aaron stood at attention. "Phoenix, I'd like to introduce you to Colonel Brian Holcomb. Colonel, this is Dr. Phoenix O'Leary from Huntsville, Alabama." Aaron looked back and forth between us, bouncing on the balls of his feet like a kid waiting for an attaboy. I grabbed Letitia's arm and squeezed as I stared at the sexy colonel. At 6 feet, he was tan and lean with mischievous green eyes. His well-groomed dark hair showed a splash of gray at the temples. I felt a welcome tingle down south. Maybe my emotional Novocaine was wearing off. I certainly hope so. This mystery date isn't going to be so bad after all. There was definite chemistry. Unsure of how to address him, I said, "Hello, Colonel?" I extended my hand and gave him my most charming smile. "You're not under my command, so please call me Brian." His broad grin produced dimples. He took my hand and didn't release it. "Since you're not one of my patients, please call me Phoenix." I'm a sucker for dimples. My stomach somersaulted while my heart tap danced in my chest. I felt an irresistible desire to run my fingers through Brian's hair. To stop myself, I jammed my free hand into the pocket of my sundress. "May I buy you a drink?" Brian released my hand and gestured toward the bar. "No, I'd prefer to wait until I have some food in my system." I tried to pinpoint his accent. Not Southern, but he'd been in the South long enough to smooth the sharp edges of his speech. Wise decision, my dear. I'm hungry myself. Aaron, let's get the show on the road. I need some chow. Gina walked over, pulling a handsome blond man by the hand. Phoenix, let me introduce you to my date, Captain Christopher Jones. Call me Chris. He gave me a friendly wave with his left hand. Gina had possession of his right, and it didn't look like she planned to surrender it any time soon. She arched one brow at me and grinned. I knew that look. Gina was pleased with her date. Aaron stood to the side, a smile creasing the angular planes of his face. The ladies and gentlemen all seemed happy with their matches. I wondered if Aaron should leave his current position and start a matchmaking service. Kat finished her glass of wine. No martinis tonight. I noticed Don's beer glass was empty. Follow me, Aaron gestured toward the door. We followed him out in single file until we reached a hallway, where we grouped in pairs. Brian offered me his arm, so I slipped my hand into the crook, while observing his chiseled face under my lowered lashes. He had sharp cheekbones with a strong jaw. Everything about him oozed authority and commanded respect. Aaron led us to a van that looked large enough to seat all 8 of us. After unlocking the doors, he helped Letitia into the passenger seat, and I ran around to the front of the vehicle to claim the driver's seat. Brian offered me his hand, and I climbed inside. I decided to crawl to the back seat. He joined me, his warm thigh against mine. My stomach fluttered as I placed my hand over it, wondering if I would be able to eat. Where are we dining? I asked. The other couples were squeezing their way into their seats. McGuire's Irish Pub, yelled Aaron from the front. We saw that place on the way to Banana Bart, said Gina, as she wrestled with her seatbelt. Chris reached across her to buckle it. Brian shifted in his seat and draped his arm over my shoulders. McGuire's motto is feasting, imbibbery, and debauchery. His grin was wide, exposing straight white teeth. It's a well-loved establishment by locals and tourists alike. It's more than just a restaurant, said Don, as he turned to face us. It's also a microbrewery. They have pale ale, Irish red porter, Irish stout, and for wussies like you, Phoenix, root beer. I'm glad you said root beer. I was getting worried. I wiped my brow as if relieved. Everyone laughed. How do you know so much about the beer at McGuire's? Asked Brian as he leaned forward, resting his forearms on the back of the seat in front of us. Kat looked over her shoulder at us. Don's the part-time bartender at the Swizzler. Don leaned over and kissed Kat's temple. Let's just say I was checking out the competition. The trip past the undeveloped dunes felt different at night. Dark and spooky. The road had a deserted feel to it. When we reached a high bridge, the lights had danced and boggled the senses like a southern Vegas. The Divas had thought the exterior of McGuire's was unique during the day, but at night it looked like a leprechaun had performed Irish magic. Green Kelly lights lined the entire roofline. Wow, said Letitia. Wait until you see the inside, said Don. Aaron found a spot in the narrow parking area. After several ins and outs to straighten the large van, he had it tucked neatly in the space. In a courtly manner, Brian assisted me from the van. He enveloped my hand in his and led me in the correct direction. We all squeezed in the door past a group of people who seemed unaware that they were blocking an entrance. This behavior had always been one of my pet peeves, along with seniors stopping in doorways with their walkers and people breaking in line. What's all that hanging down from the ceiling? Letitia looked up, frowning. Kind of looks nasty from a distance. Aaron placed his arm around her shoulder and pulled her closer. It's autographed dollar bills, Dumpling. Gina, Kat, and I exchanged glances when we heard the Dumpling pet name again. Kat shook her head while Gina performed her patented eye roll. She perfected the move during adolescence, and I'm surprised one of her parents didn't slap that expression off her face before she reached adulthood. I covered my mouth to hold in a giggle. How many dollars do you think are up there? I looked at Brian. Don't know. He shrugged his shoulders. A lot. A nearby waiter heard my question and walked over. The legend is McGuire rang the bar and Molly served the drinks. When she received her first tip, she pinned it to the wall behind the bar. The friends liked the idea, so they started signing dollar bills and attached them to the walls and ceiling. It's now a tradition. He paused briefly to watch the group of folks blocking the door leave. To answer your question, it's estimated there are over $1 million tacked to these walls and ceilings. The owner has an accounting firm come in and count them every year. I hope they have these bills insured. What if there was a fire? Gina asked as she walked closer to view some of the signatures. What about theft? Interrupted Brian. Mr. Information leaned closer and lowered his voice. We had an employee pull a bunch of bills down once. He was arrested. How'd they catch him? Letitia moved closer to hear the answer. The signatures on the bills made it easy to spot the stolen ones. He took them to a local bank and tried to cash them in for larger bills. Dumb fuck, bellowed Brian. Surprised and embarrassed by his outburst, I moved away a step or two. Mr. Information frowned at Brian. If you'll follow me, I can seat you now because we have a table open for 8. Brian chose a chair and pulled it out for me and then took the seat to my left at the head of the table. Aaron sat at the other end with Letitia to his right. Don and Kat were to my right and Gina and Chris sat across the table from me. Don picked up his menu and said, Ladies, just so that you know, this isn't the original location. This destined location has only been open since 1996. Letitia opened her menu. Good. If they've been open that long, they should know how to cook. I skipped past the bar food on the menu and perused the Irish dishes. I know what I'm having. The Irish lamb stew with a root beer. Brian guffawed. You don't want a root beer, do you? Yes, I do. Our waiter arrived and introduced himself. I'm Hank and I'm willing to do almost anything for a tip. He grinned. Looked at me and asked, Can I take your drink order, ma'am? As I opened my mouth to order, Brian said, Give us 2 Irish stouts. He gestured to include me. I felt my jaw drop. I'd prefer root beer instead. Brian interrupted. Bring her a stout. He issued the request as an order to a low-ranking soldier. My temper blazed like a bonfire, threatening to singe $1 million of autographed bills. If you insist on ordering that beer from me, you better be ready to drink it, because I won't. I turned and smiled up at Hank, but my tone was titanium. Please bring me a root beer. Yes, ma'am. Wise to the situation, he turned and busied himself with the rest of the drink orders. The divas looked at me with worried expressions. It was pretty clear to me that Brian anticipated having his way. He better wise up to this in a hurry, because I'm not a private under his command. A short time later, Hank returned with our drink orders. He placed a root beer served in a frosted mug in front of me, just the way I like it. What would you like for dinner tonight, ma'am? Again, Brian spoke before I could. The lady will have lamb stew, and I'll have the ribeye, rare, with another Irish stout. He closed his menu with authority. Then he reached over, slipped mine from my grasp, and handed them both to Hank. I felt my back stiffen as I locked gazes with Gina. It's a good thing I didn't change my mind about the entree. Both of Gina's brows shot up. On occasion, a man has ordered for me in an expensive restaurant, but he has always asked my permission first. Gina ordered corned beef and cabbage. Kat decided on fish and chips, and Letitia selected Irish steak and mushroom pie. The rest of the guys ordered steak or seafood entrees. After Hank had left, Kat leaned over to ask Brian, "Aren't you concerned about eating your steak raw?" "Why would that concern me?" Brian's voice assumed an authoritative tone. "Raw meat can carry salmonella, E. coli, Shigella, Staphylococcus, and Listeria bacteria," said Kat. "Never had a problem before." He moved his hand as if he shooed a fly. "What are you, a doctor or something?" "Nurse." The conversation lulled. I sipped my root beer, which was delicious, and reminded me of root beer floats I had as a child. Brian drank from his mug of Irish stout and wiped the foam from his lips with the back of his hand. "Now that's a beer. You should try it, Phoenix." "I don't like beer. I never have." "How do you know if you don't try it?" I shrugged my shoulders and reached for his mug. I sipped a mouthful, scrunched my face, and wished I had a polite way to spit it out. I choked it down. Yuck! I grabbed my root beer and drank several gulps, trying to cleanse my palate of the vile brew. Brian drew himself up to full stature. "I can't believe you don't like that beer. It's good." Don came to my defense. "That's a stout brew. Most folks who don't like beer can't tolerate a stout." I could have hugged him. Brian hurled. I glanced down the table. Letitia was giving my date a squinty-eyed glare. I heard Gina mumble something in Italian. Not a good sign. The food arrived, breaking the tension. My stew was full of lamb, onions, potatoes, and other tasty veggies. I tasted the steaming concoction and sighed. It was delicious and an all-in-one meal. I glanced over at Brian in time to see him slice open his steak. Blood oozed from the meat and filled the plate. I turned away, covered my mouth with my napkin, and closed my eyes while my stomach settled. The sight of that bloody steak didn't sit well after I had to swallow that yucky beer. Brian poked me with his elbow. "Would you like to try my steak?" "No thanks, Brian. I like mine cooked medium." I avoided the sight of the massacre on his plate. I wasn't sure why it bothered me so much. I'm not usually sensitive to gory things. Brian gave me a haughty look. "Don't be such a wuss." Gina scowled at Brian. "He's stronzo." I knew the translation was, "You asshole." Aaron was looking concerned at the other end of the table, his gaze bouncing between his boss and me. I'm not going to let this jerk ruin my dinner for everyone. I decided to ignore Brian and enjoyed my delicious meal. 40 minutes later, everyone decided to forego dessert. "Anyone up for a little dancing?" asked Aaron. "You know I am," said Letitia, gazing up at him with flirty eyes. If she flitted those lashes any faster, she'd make herself dizzy. The gentleman paid the tabs while we divas beeline for the ladies' room. Letitia scooted into the handicapped accessible stall and closed the door. "What do you think of your guys?" she asked, her voice drifting over the stall. "I think Chris is fascinating. He's traveled all over Europe," said Gina, who was reapplying her lipstick, "including Italy." I removed my travel toothbrush from my purse, loaded it from my tiny tube of toothpaste, and soon looked like I was foaming at the mouth. "I don't know about Phoenix's date," said Kat. "I thought maybe Brian was old-fashioned when he ordered for her, but that whole thing about the rare steak and the beer has me wondering." Gina blotted her lipstick. "I didn't like that either. He seems bossy and controlling to me." I spit out the toothpaste in the basin, rinsed my mouth, and dried my toothbrush with a paper towel. After dumping it in my purse, I grabbed my lipstick. Letitia came out of the stall and shuffled toward the sink, still adjusting her clothes. Phoenix, if you don't feel comfortable with the sky, we'll call the rest of the night off. I looked at everyone's reflection in the mirror. They were all nodding in agreement. That's sweet, but I don't want to ruin everyone's fun just because my date has a massive case of commanditis. I'll be fine, but if I'm not... Say the word, said Letitia. Let's have a code word or signal. Gina rolled her eyes again. Cat looked pensive. Headache, I said. If any of us has a sudden headache, that's it. Agreed? I looked at each of the divas. They all nodded their agreement. When we exited, Brian boomed, Here they are. We were afraid you ladies crawled out the window and escaped. He took my hand. Phoenix, I owe you an apology. Oh? I took an involuntary step back. What makes people interesting are their differences. You don't have to like what I like. I haven't dated much since my divorce, so I'm a bit rusty. I pasted on my most gracious smile. Apology accepted. Let's go dance. I appreciated the apology, but it was pretty clear to me that Brian liked to have things go his way. He needs to keep in mind that I'm not under his command. Thank you for listening. Have a great day. Please like, subscribe, leave comments, and please share with other people so they can enjoy the divas. Have a great day. Stay well and stay safe. Bye.